So welcome, our beloved, brilliant colleague, Natasha. We so appreciate your consistent leadership, solidarity, and all that you do for so many. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by giving thanks to our Creator, by acknowledging all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Natasha, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Well, good morning and hello. It's so wonderful to be with you. My name is Natasha Henry Dixon, and I'm an assistant professor at York University for African Canadian history. And this role is actually, I think, an ideal culmination of the work that I've been doing over, believe it or not, about 25 years after calculating it, working in earnest to have stories and materials available to teach about the African presence here in Canada and connecting it to the wider African diaspora so that young people could learn more about that rich history.
That's incredible. I remember years ago when my children were young, buying your books and leveraging those books in terms of how we homeschooled and the curriculum. And you've just been such an incredible, not just scholar, but community leader for such a long time. And I just really applaud your commitment and your consistency. You make our ancestors
Thank you.
proud. Yeah. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
so my next question is, what's inspiring you right now about your work? What has you curious, or what's keeping you up at nights?
My motivation has always been about young people, young Black students, young Black children, and the ways that they see themselves in their learning spaces, whether it be in a public education classroom, in community programs, that, what drives me is that they can see themselves in this space. We, as adults now, when we were young people, we're navigating the same thing, trying to understand what it might have meant if our parents or ourselves had immigrated here to Canada. What did it mean to be Black, to be African in this space? And how does it connect to the wider dispersal of African peoples around the world. And so that has been a driving force for me because that was my personal journey. And so when I became an educator, it was part of my pedagogical approach to ensure that all young people that were in my classrooms would learn about the Black presence, specifically here. I prioritize that because this is where many of them are born and raised and grew up. And then what does that mean then to connect it to the wider movement of African people, and of course to the continent of Africa? So that is a driving force for me. I have over time seen some improvement in that respect in terms of stakeholders recognizing the importance of teaching about Black history, spaces for young people to learn more about themselves, to express their culture. And so it's good to see that. But we've also, of course, we know within, the society that we exist, that there will always be, and there continues to be pushback and barriers in many forms. And so for me, that continues to push me to want to remove those barriers and to continue to improve those conditions.
Incredible, incredible. I give thanks as always for your candor and your authenticity. So my next question, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And what are some of the approaches you and your colleagues are taking to overcome these challenges and barriers?
Well, there are several challenges and barriers, and I always take a look at it from a community standpoint and then institutional standpoints. And I think it's important to take a look at both. As it relates to teaching about African Canadian history in classrooms, I think we're quite familiar there, especially with the recent announcement by the Ministry of Education in Ontario that previous to this year or next year, there has been no specific compulsory learning expectations on the 400-year presence of people of African descent here in Canada. And so that has continued to be a concern in the sense that anything that has been taught has been based on the individual endeavors of educators and not necessarily part of what is taught more broadly as curriculum in public education classrooms. And so, with this recent announcement now, that is a good step, but then it's now to ensure that what is identified as mandatory learning on Black Canadian history, how it's taught, and how it's resourced are important. So that, for me, in that sense, is a next step. On the community side, I continue to push for community spaces for Black children to learn about and explore their Black histories. There is no way that we can rely solely on the school system in order to teach our students and to empower them in a way that I think is sufficient. And so it's incumbent upon us as families in the community in order to create those spaces and for parents and families to take advantage of those spaces when they are created. We have a long history going back to the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement of Saturday schools and freedom schools and after school programs here in Toronto, the Black Heritage program that was part of the TDSB programs offered. And so we have over time people and community groups organizing these spaces. And at once upon a time, they were fairly well used. And I don't think so much so in the recent past. And so I think another thing for me is also to show people and to get them to recognize the importance of creating these spaces and supporting these spaces as part of the wholesome development of our young people.
I couldn't agree more. As a young boy, my father and my mother used to bring me and my sister to Higher Marks. And there's other Higher
Mm-hmm.
Marks alumni. I feel like one day people need to
Yes.
work together, or even ACHA. It's been around for almost
Yes.
years.
Yes.
Incredible
Mhm.
models around educational attainments that were done without resourcing, heavy funding,
Mhm.
but just community coming together to advance
Yes.
educational attainment for young people. So once again, I couldn't agree more. So my next
Mhm.
question, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
So my priorities in my role as assistant professor is to support the teaching of my courses and other courses at York University where I am. They are at York, we're embarking on offering an actual Black Studies program, where previously it was a certificate program. It will now be a certificate. It's now a program that will have a major and a minor. And for me, teaching African Canadian history, that is an important anchor for the program. And so in that respects, I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues to ensure that the program has all that it needs to welcome students. And I think for me, it's been very important because I was a student grew up in Lawrence Heights, and what just captured me was African history, Black history. I was able to go to York University and study. That was for me, that pulled me into higher education. And then knowing that I wanted to be an educator, I was able to complete my studies at York University. And so having these programs are for all students, and Black students, is a bit of a different thing in terms of when, and these are times when students are seeking to understand more about themselves, developing their identity, making connections. And so it creates an important space. And so to have these courses and these programs available for young people are important. And what has happened, the programs that's going to be developed is a result of a lot of the advocacy of Black students going back to, several years. And so it's good to see that this is coming to fruition. So it's important for me to to provide the supports as much as I'm able to ensure that these programs are available. And then outside of my immediate catchment of York University is to continue to provide resources and supports for other programs, whether it be in elementary, high school, or post-secondary, by way of some of the teaching resources that I've developed, the historical materials that I've been making available or sharing from other people who have developed them, making sure that they're available. I think that is also a goal for me to support that. I think that given my years of expertise, that I do have skills and expertise to contribute to the development of learning expectations with the curriculum at the provincial government level. And so would like to contribute to that so that there are, people who are well versed in this history, who can contribute to that. So those are some of the things that I would like to do, all while balancing, family and self-care. So I think, but again, these are the things that really motivate me every day. And when I engage with young people in my classes or on campus or in different spaces, and to see their interest really just lets me know that I continue to do the right thing.
Absolutely. The right educator in the right moments of time could oftentimes changes lives. So I can only
Yes.
imagine the amount of lives that you've changed and course corrects in young people's lives and just the trajectory. So once again, I just applaud your consistency. And you've been on this journey since I was very young. I'm not gonna date you, you know what I mean?
You
But
can date me. You have to
you know what I mean?
we can date each
Like,
other. It's good. It's
yeah, yeah,
good.
like easily 25 years. Like I remember
You're
pretty
spot
good.
on. You are spot on.
Yeah,
I was counting it the other day and I said it's 25 years this
yeah,
year.
yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah, so I just
Yeah.
applaud. I remember buying one of the books when it wasn't even bound, when it
Yeah.
was in the back
Yes.
of,
Yeah. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yes,
Yes.
I
Hmm.
just applaud your consistency, and
Thank
that type of energy that we need nowadays, because we saw it in our elders, Viola, we saw it with Marianne Shad, we saw it with Jean Henry Clark, we like that's those scholars that's
you.
educated generations and people like you. We need to give you your flowers, while you're here and not after you transition, you know what I mean? Which is
Yes.
a long way
Yes.
out because you're a lot younger than folks think, and you started a lot at a very young age as well in this work.
Yes, yes, thank you.
I just
Yeah,
think
we
that
definitely need to do that and to uphold each other, and support each other in the best way that we can, all for supporting our young people as well.
absolutely. So it's a perfect segue to my next question. How do you feel about the future of educational attainment in our communities? Are you optimistic? Are you hopeful? Are you pessimistic? How are you feeling?
I am hopeful, and I also envision more. I'm hopeful in the sense that from the space, for example, at York University and in post-secondary, I'm seeing more young Black people going into, continuing their education. Um, I'm also concerned in terms of the supports that are available for students to be successful and to actually have a journey that is not stressful, whether it may be economically or whatever the case may be, that they are able to engage in their learning in a very fulsome way. And so those are some of the things that concern me. And I also then bring it back to the family unit and the community, and what can we do to support our young people in their endeavors. It's good to see a lot of scholarships that are available. Sometimes young people and families need help to complete these applications, or to even know that these scholarships exist. And so I know that some people have done that on an individual basis, and some organizations that could be more. Sometimes, not just Black students, all students, sometimes they don't have strong skill sets. So what can be done to support them in their essay writing, in their research skills, and, in their reading skills. How do you read journal articles at the university level? And so some of those kinds of things to help to support them, so to ensure that they're successful, not only that they're arriving at post-secondary, but they are thriving, that they're successful, and that they are completing their studies. And so those are some of the things that I want to see a straight, clear, successful pipeline for the majority of students. Some studies have been showing that when students, while they are arriving more, they're not necessarily finishing post-secondary. And so that is something I think that we need to be collectively mindful of for young people. So I think that that's something that gives me hope. I always am enthralled by the advocacy and activism of our people, and that, we can come together to let our voices be heard around certain concerns. And so that's something that I would want to continue to see and to continue to contribute to, as it relates to the experiences of our young people in the educational system. And then another thing is to support different alternative educational spaces for our children as well. And so all children come with different needs, different interests. And I think the more alternatives that we can have for our young people will help to ensure a larger number of successes for our students. And so that means that it's incumbent upon us as community to support those spaces.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. I
Mhm.
couldn't agree more. So my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
Mhm. Yes, I do. I think, there were a few, just getting back again to the announcement from the Ministry of Education around mandated learning expectations, that if and when they call out for community feedback, that we participate in that, that we also, as a community, look to and support individuals, again, who may have the skill set and expertise in order to guide what is taking place. I think that that's important, that we need to take the time to do that. We also, for me, I think we also need to, and we can support people who are, when it comes to history, the people who are documenting our history and telling our stories, to support those individuals. It could be in the books that they're publishing, or the exhibits that they are curating and are being shown in different spaces, that we take the time to bring ourselves and to bring our young people to these spaces and to expose them to some of these things as well, to support the work that people are doing, whether it's in the arts or in writing books, or whatever the case may be, that we go out and we support them. And not just Black History Month, but all throughout the year. One immediate event that came to mind, I wasn't able to attend because of family commitments, but there was a book fair held at the JCA, and you saw, quite a number of people coming out with books, book vendors, book authors, other, people who had other things to contribute and display. And so it was really good to see that a community space such as the JCA was being used for this kind of an event. And so I would like to see things more like that. I know a different book list hosts events as well. To support these initiatives, and that when we continue to build infrastructure in our community, that we pour into that. I think that's another important call to action, again, that we help to support the institutions that exist, and things that institutions that and groups that we need, that we see that there's a gap and that we need, that we support initiatives to make these things, to realize these things in our community for the betterment of our communities.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. Manasi Papa, thank you so much.
Mm,
Love and
you're
assist
welcome.
all that you do for so many. I so appreciate your integrity, your authenticity, and just the amount of work that you've done. Your body of work is incredible, and you still have the same vigor and the same passion that you had 25 years ago. So I just
Good
put
to hear.
yeah. I pray the
Yeah.
Almighty continues to bless you and guide you and guard your steps. And as always at Setsi, we close this conversation, this interview, the way we began it, by giving thanks to our Creator, by acknowledging the original stewards, the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you, Natasha. I appreciate you.
And thank you so much, Victor. Thank you for all that you do and, bringing us together and reminding us of what's important in our community. So thank you.